This is one of the most overlooked stories in the entire Bible, and it could change your life.
My people had turned their backs on God, and the consequences were devastating. So God handed us over to Cushan-Rishathaim, a king whose very name means double wickedness. 8 years we lived under his iron fist. 8 years of suffering, until the day Israel finally cried out to the one God they had abandoned. And God answered, but his choice of deliverer shocked everyone.
Hey there, welcome back to Red Lamb Stories. I'm Remi, so glad you're here. Today's story is about a man who felt completely unqualified, but God chose him anyway. Please welcome the very first judge of Israel, Othniel. Welcome, Othniel. We're so excited to hear your incredible story.
Thank you, Remi. It's an honor to share what God did.
But first, here's a quiz question for you. How many years did Cushan-Rishathaim oppress Israel before God raised up a deliverer? Drop your answer in the comments when you see it in the story. Othniel, take us back to the very beginning.
To understand my story, you need to know where I came from. My brother Caleb was a living legend, one of the 2 spies who trusted God. But what I didn't know was that God was already preparing me for something far bigger. Caleb stood before the warriors and made a bold challenge. Whoever conquers the city of Debir wins my daughter Aksa as his wife. Every warrior looked at those walls and hesitated. But something burned inside me. I stepped forward and said, I'll take that city. Nobody thought I could do it. I was younger, smaller, unproven. But God gave me the strength and the strategy to breach those walls. The city of Debir fell, and I had proven what God could do through an unlikely warrior. And Caleb kept his word. He gave me his daughter, Aksa. Aksa was bold. She even asked her father for springs of water for our land. Life was good. God had blessed us with land, water, and peace. But then Joshua died, and everything started to fall apart. The next generation forgot what God had done. They chased after foreign gods. I watched my own people bow to Baal and Asherah. It broke my heart. And God's anger burned against Israel. He removed his protection. That's when Cushan-Rishathaim's army appeared on the horizon. They swept through our land like a wildfire no one could stop. Cushan-Rishathaim didn't just conquer us. He crushed our spirit. Our crops were seized, our young men conscripted, our families torn apart. Year after year, the oppression only grew worse. I prayed, God, how long will you let this continue? Aksa never stopped believing. She kept telling me God had a plan. By the 8th year, I could see it. Israel was completely broken. And that's when something shifted. The people began to cry out to God. Not a polite prayer, a desperate, gut-wrenching cry for deliverance. And God heard them. He heard every single cry. And the deliverer God chose? It wasn't anyone they expected. The Spirit of the Lord came upon me, and nothing was ever the same.
Othniel, God's Spirit came on you just like that? Out of nowhere?
Yes, but that's not even the hardest part of my story.
Wait, it gets even harder than an 8-year oppression?
The moment God's Spirit filled me, I knew what I had to do. I sent word to every tribe. Israel's deliverance had come. But what I didn't know yet was that the hardest battle wouldn't be against Cushan-Rishathaim. Warriors started arriving, but not the kind you'd expect. Farmers, shepherds, old men, these were the ones who answered the call. I looked at them and thought, God, is this really your plan? Caleb came to me the night before we marched. He said, "I've seen God fight battles that no army could win. Trust him." Those words lit a fire in me that no army could put out. At dawn, I stood before them and told them the truth. God didn't call us because we were strong. He called us because He is. We marched east toward Mesopotamian territory, straight into the lion's mouth. Every step east brought us closer to an army 10 times our size. Scouts returned with terrifying reports. The Mesopotamian forces were massive. Chariots, archers, infantry. Cushan-Rishathaim had brought everything. Some of my men wanted to turn back. I couldn't blame them. But the spirit inside me wouldn't let me stop. God had spoken. Before dawn, I gave the order. We attack at first light. We hit their eastern flank before they even knew we were there. Mesopotamian soldiers stumbled from their tents, confused, unprepared, terrified. It wasn't my strategy. It was God fighting through us. I cut through their lines searching for one man, their king. And there he was, Cushan-Rishathaim, scrambling for his chariot. The man who terrorized Israel for 8 years, now running for his life. I caught him at the edge of camp. His guards had all abandoned him. The king of double wickedness, brought low by a man nobody expected. God didn't need a perfect army. He needed one obedient man. We marched home, carrying the spoils of a victory only God could deliver. When we reached home, the cries of suffering had turned to cries of joy. Chains were broken, families reunited, stolen crops returned to their owners. The altars to Baal were torn down. Israel turned back to the one true God. And I judged Israel, not by my own wisdom, but by God's Spirit guiding every decision. The land had rest, 40 years of peace that only God could give. I was just a younger brother, living in a legend's shadow. But God saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. And He used these hands to set an entire nation free.
Othniel, your army had farming tools against war chariots?
And God turned every disadvantage into His advantage.
So the smaller the army, the bigger God's glory.
For years after the victory, everything was exactly as God promised. Peace. But prosperity has a way of making people forget where it came from. I started hearing whispers. People saying the victory was won by our swords, not God's hand. They forgot the farming tools. They only remembered the glory. Young men started boasting about battles they were too young to remember. And the altars, the ones we tore down, I saw new ones being built in secret. The same idols that brought 8 years of suffering, creeping back. I realized that defeating an enemy army was simple compared to this. You can defeat an army in a single morning, but hearts take a lifetime. Axa saw it too. She urged me to act before it was too late. She said, God didn't save Israel so they could worship themselves. So I called a gathering, every elder, every tribal leader, every family head. They came expecting praise. I had something else to say. I reminded them how they had cried out to God from the dirt, broken, enslaved, desperate. I told them, the God who broke your chains is the same God you're now ignoring. Some elders stood up and walked out. They didn't want to hear it. But I wouldn't stop. The cost of silence was too high. I asked them, do you remember the quarries, the stolen children, the empty storehouses? Do you remember begging God on your faces in the dirt? God heard those prayers. And this is how we repay Him? I told them, tear down the secret altars, burn the idols, come back to God before He removes His hand again. The silence that followed was heavier than any battle I'd ever fought. The hardest battle wasn't the one I fought with a sword. It was the one I fought for their hearts. Then one elder stood, then another, then 10, then 100. They fell on their faces before God, just like they had years before. And the secret altars? Torn down that very night. That's when I knew God's deliverance wasn't just from enemies outside. It was from the enemy within, the pride that makes people forget God. Every day I chose faithfulness, and every day God chose to sustain the peace. 40 years, not because I was strong, but because God was faithful. Remi, people ask me what I'm most proud of. It's not the battle. It's not the victory parade. It's the moment Axa looked at me and said, "You became who God meant you to be." That mattered more than any crown or title. She saw me when no one else did. Before Caleb, before Israel, before the Spirit came. Caleb saw potential, but Axa saw the man underneath the potential. And every season of my life, God used every single one. The years as the youngest, He was teaching me to wait. The years as the unknown brother, He was building my hunger. The years in Caleb's shadow, He was preparing my courage. The years leading an army with no name, He was forging my faith. And the years as judge, He was finishing what He started. See, God doesn't waste anything, not even the parts you want to forget. The loneliness, the doubt, the wondering if anyone noticed. God was in all of it. But what God built through those years? Remi, it outlasted everything. 40 years of peace. Not because of me, but because God chose to work through me. Axa raised our children to know the God who delivers. The elders who repented that night, they taught their sons to do the same. The farmers who picked up weapons, they became the protectors of their families. The nation that forgot God, they became the people who remembered. That's what God does with overlooked people, Remi. He doesn't just use them, He builds legacies through them. Every quiet act of obedience, it adds up to something bigger than you can imagine. I look at this land now, and I see God's fingerprints everywhere. On the fields He restored, on the families He rebuilt, on the hearts He never gave up on. So if you're sitting where I sat, overlooked, underestimated, wondering if God sees you, let me tell you something. He sees you. He has a plan for the broken, the forgotten, the ones no one picked first. He used a man no one remembered to give a nation 40 years of peace. And He will do the same through you, if you simply say yes.
Othniel's story shows us something incredible about how God delivers. When Israel cried out under oppression, God raised up a deliverer. He chose Othniel, a man no one expected, and set an entire nation free. But Othniel's deliverance was temporary. 40 years of peace, then it ended. Every human deliverer eventually reaches the end of what they can save us from. But God sent one final deliverer, and this one would conquer death itself. Jesus went to the cross and took the full weight of sin and death for us. And 3 days later, He walked out of the grave, alive forever. Othniel delivered Israel for 40 years, but Jesus delivers forever. He offers eternal life to everyone who trusts in Him. No expiration, no end. If you've never trusted in Jesus, today is the perfect time. Jesus wants to be your deliverer too. Let's give a huge thank you to Othniel for this powerful story.
Thank you, Remi. I'm honored to share what God did.
If you love these stories, subscribe for more. All right, it's quiz time. How many years did Cushan-Rishathaim oppress Israel before God raised up a deliverer? You've got 5 seconds to put your answer in the comments. The answer is 8 years. That can be found in Judges 3:8. 8 long years before God said, "Enough is enough." If you nailed that one, comment below and let us know. Othniel was the man nobody noticed, and God used him to save a nation. He proved that God doesn't need the most powerful, just the most willing. His story reminds us God sees the ones the world overlooks. But what happens when God silences someone who's been speaking for him? Miriam was a prophetess, a worship leader, and Moses' own sister. But one mistake cost her everything, and what God did next shocked the entire nation. What might God be teaching you in the silence you didn't choose? Click right here to see how God silenced Miriam to save her.